My name is Cynhyrchu, and I lead the cereals and pulses group here at IBES, at Aberystwyth University. And what we have here is a demonstration of oats from the past 100 years, because we've been breeding oats in Aberystwyth now for 100 years, since the Welsh Plant Breeding Station was formed in 1919. And the original oats that were collected at that time, which were the foundation of those breeding programs, were varieties like these that you can see before you. This is an old Welsh landrace called hen gardi, and as you can see, it has very thin straw and it tends to fall over. Often people will say, oh, I don't grow oats because my grandfather grew them and they'd always fell over in the field and they were very difficult to harvest. And that's right, old varieties of oats were relatively prone to lodging. But over that 100 years, the emphasis has been in breeding oats with stronger straw, shorter straw, and that's enabled much higher yielding oats to be developed. And so the modern oats are quite unlike the oats that your grandfather will have grown. However, we don't know what we might have lost in the process. For example, there may be interesting disease resistances or properties of the grain. We know that oats is a healthy cereal for human consumption. It contains beta-glucan, which is scientifically proven to reduce cholesterol and have other heart health benefits. But what we're doing now is we're looking at the grain of some of these old varieties and looking to see how their composition varies. And we found some of these old varieties do have quite high beta-glucan levels and also quite high protein levels. Because another use for oats, they were the original biofuel for feeding to horses before tractors were used, and they are very useful in the modern day for feeding to animals due to their high oil and protein contents. We're also growing a number of modern oat varieties at 4 locations around Aberystwyth, 2 locations at Trowscoed and 2 locations at Pwllpeiron. So we're using locations that are from sea level right up to 350 metres in altitude. And the varieties that we've chosen to grow in these sites include the modern spring oat variety Spurtle, which was developed in Aberystwyth, as well as some novel varieties that we've been recently developing which have low lignin in the husk. And these make them very attractive for feeding to animals because the husk of oats is relatively indigestible, whereas these husks have a much higher digestibility, and so you can feed the oats whole to animals, and they would be ideal for feeding to poultry as well as to ruminants as finishing feed.
John Davies, rheolwr yma ym Mhwllpeiron. Heddiw dyn ni'n edrych ar gynedau ceirch. Dyn ni wedi tyfu cynnyrch y gwanwyn yma a gwahanol fathau ar lefel o 330 o fedrau uwch lefel y môr, sef 11 trodfedd, ac hefyd ar safleoedd eraill, 3 safle eraill o hyn lawr i 70 medr. Dyn ni wedi edrych ar 4 gwahanol math o geirch. Mae yna un yn geirch gaeaf, sef Galloway, a mae'r ceirch eraill yn geirch gwanwyn. Y rheswm dyn ni'n edrych ar hyn yw gwella y porthiant gaeafol ar gyfer stoc. A dyn ni wedi bod ers bron 100 mlynedd bellach yn magu a datblygu ceirch yn IBES yn Aberystwyth. Felly mae'n hanfodol bwysig y bod ni'n datblygu ceirch sy'n gallu goroesi mewn ardaloedd o dir uchel yng Nghymru, oherwydd mae yna 80% o dir Cymru yn yr ardaloedd lleiafrifol. Felly mae yn bwysig hefyd y bod ni yn cael digon o borthiant i anifeiliaid, oherwydd ni fedrwn ni bellach mewnforio cnydau o wledydd eraill.
We're also looking at different management conditions to determine the best way of growing oats, both for getting it in optimal yield, and that's economic optimum, accounting obviously for the cost of the nitrogen that you're putting into the crop, and also on the grain quality of that crop. Oats are primarily used for milling, and millers have very tight specifications for the oats that they require for going through the mill in an optimum fashion. So what we're looking at here are a number of different levels of nitrogen applied to 3 different modern oat varieties. so, including one that was bred here in Aberystwyth called Conway. And as you can see, at the highest levels of nitrogen, you have a much taller, thicker crop, but there is a tendency at the very highest levels of nitrogen for there to be more lodging. And at the low levels of nitrogen, you have a very thin and very short crop. So if you look around, you can see that there are varying different heights of crop that's easily seen. We're also doing a number of other measurements, for example looking at the number of panicles per metre squared to see how that yield is made up, so we can look at the different yield components, and when the grain is harvested we'll look at various quality characteristics, for example the specific weight of the grain, its kernel content, how easy it is to remove the husk from the kernel, and also the grain composition to see how adding nitrogen affects traits such as the protein content, beta-glucan and oil content.